In Lesson 3, we are going to focus on enhancing your photos. To do this, we are going to cover 4 basic editing techniques. When editing your photos, it is important to look at all 4 techniques. Depending on the photo, you may or may not choose to use all 4. Today we will focus on the first technique, and I believe probably the most important step in enhancing your photos: levels. First, we begin by opening a photo. I'm going to open a photo of my friend and her newborn baby. And as we've previously learned, we're going to duplicate the photo by going File, Duplicate. And I'm going to call this Adjusted. And now I'm going to delete the first one, and now we're left with this photo. I'm also going to minimize my project bin and my palette bin to maximize my editing space. And now I want to fit my photo as large as I can in this space. And if you remember correctly from our last tutorial, double-clicking the hand tool allows me to do that. Now I'm ready to work. To access levels, you must go to the menu bar, select Enhance, Adjust Lighting, and Levels. Notice the shortcut keys for this are Command L, or on a PC, Control L. This shortcut key is quick and easy, and you will use it often, so try it out. I'm going to close this, and now I'm going to use my shortcut command, Control L, and this is what appears. Here we have a histogram. A histogram is a fancy way of saying graph. This graph demonstrates the distribution of the lights and darks of a photo. The darks, or shadows, are represented on the left, where the graph starts at 0. The lights, or highlights, are represented on the right, with a level of 255. It is important to have an equal distribution of lights and darks in your photo. In this photo, we have a very good distribution of lights and darks. The graph goes from 0 to 255 with all pixels represented. So I'm going to cancel out of this and close this photo. I'm not going to save this right now. And I'm going to open up another photo. And this photo is a photo I took one day in the schoolyard. This peacock just happened to be walking by. No, I'm just kidding. This was taken at a zoo. So now I'm going to begin again by duplicating my image. I'll leave it at that for now. Close my original. Now I'm left with this copy of my original. I'm going to double click my hand tool and get the maximum I can. So you may notice that this photo looks a little bit dull. So let's bring up the levels command, again with our Control L. And here you're going to see, once again, I'm just going to move this up here. You're going to see a histogram as we saw previously. But notice that this one, they have a lot of pixels on the left, or in the dark side of the histogram, but missing quite a bit on the right. So to adjust this, we must take the slider on the highlight side, which is the right side, and move it until it hits the first represented pixel. So probably about, where did that go? About here. I could possibly go a little bit further, but I don't want to go too much further. So you bring the slider in until you start to see the black, or what I call move it to the bottom of the mountain. It isn't hard to notice the difference, but to compare, we have this preview checkbox that allows us to see the adjustment as we go. So if I click it, I see how it was before I made the change, and click it again to see the difference in the change here and here. So quite a difference. If I slide it over even further, you're going to even notice even more of a change. Okay, I'm going to cancel this for a moment just to demonstrate an important point. Right now I'm going to use my magnifying tool. That's the zoom tool and can be found by clicking on the magnifying glass or selecting the Z key to get your zoom tool. Now I'm just going to select a certain area to zoom, so I'm going to click and drag, and now I've enlarged this area. So what I want you to do is keep an eye on this section of the feathers. I'm going to bring up my levels command again by going Control L, and as I bring this over, please note that highlighted section that I did. Right now you can see there's some detail in the feathers. There's little striations right in here in the white. As I slide my slider over and I get farther and farther to the left, notice that this now just becomes a white blur, a flat white line, and you're losing all the detail. It's extremely important not to move too far along, because that detail is going to be lost, and although your photo is nice and bright, you won't have any detail in your brights or your whites. So let's dial it back to the beginning of the mountain, and we're going to leave it right there. So I'm going to go double click on my move tool. So let's have a look at the shadows. Well, the shadows are well represented, so we are going to leave the shadows as possible. But I do notice that down here in the shadow of the wings, it's a little bit too dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the mid-tone section, which would be considered the very middle slider. And the default for this is 1.00. If I move this to the left, my mid-tones are going to lighten up. Come on, let's drag over here. See, we're going to get very, very light as I go over. If I go back to 0, now I move it to the right, everything gets darker. So I'm just going to take my back to where I was. I'm going to slide it just slightly a little to the left and lighten up that mid-tone. So here you have it. I think I'm happy with this. So I'm going to select OK. Once I've made all the necessary changes I need to in levels, then I will move on to the next editing technique, which we will discuss in our next tutorial. Finally, I'm going to open a picture that was taken while exploring the icebergs off the coast of Newfoundland. It's a picture of a seal. Cute little thing. So again, sticking with the levels command, I'm going to open it up, Control L. Maybe I'm not. Control L. Why is this not working? Oh, here we go. Control L. I'm just going to, as you can see, you can move this wherever you want. I'm just going to move it in a spot that doesn't interfere with the photo. So on this photo, you can see that there's information missing on the right, on the highlights, and on the left in the darks. So I'm first going to start with the highlights. Again, move this over to the bottom of the mountain. And I think that's quite enough. I don't want to lose detail in the snow and the head of the seal. And then technically I should be moving this right over to about here, which now is the bottom of the mountain on the left. But I'm going to bring that back, and I want you just to notice the nose of the seal as I bring this over. The seal has detail here, or sorry, the nose has detail here, but now when I get to the bottom of the mountain, we've lost the detail, and it just becomes a black dot. So I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to move back to a point where I can see the detail in the nose. So I've only moved it slightly, but now I still think that maybe the spot along the back of the seal could be a little darker, so I'm going to go back up to my midtones, slide it slightly to the right, darken up that a little bit, and at the same time I should still be able to have the detail in the nose. Oh, I might have gone a little too far. Let me check. So let's see what it looked like before. Again, I'll check my preview button. Before, after. We've gotten some nice, a lot brighter on the snow. It's a lot more vibrant. And I actually don't like the seal's face that dark, so I'm going to bring it back to where it started. Now let me try it again. There we go. So it does take a lot of experimenting to find what's best for you. The most important point here is that you be certain you don't lose detail in the lights and in the darks. I'm going to press OK, accept that. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how levels work, what a histogram is, and how to adjust your photos accordingly. Remember, this is just step 1 of 4 in our editing series.